Welcome back to Mage Knight with the next scenario of the Apocalypse Dragon expansion, which is against the dragon. So last time we've played against the horseman, now it's the time for the dragon, and then there's the final scenario where you actually fight both at the same time in a full-length scenario. Against the dragon is a shorter scenario with Blizzard rules, where you fight up to 2 days and 2 nights, which is the reason why we started 1 fame and a +1 influence bonus, so 2 reputation. And we have 4 mana dice and 4 units in the offer. So the final goal is to find and defeat the dragon. And once you are searching for the lair and until the time you have attacked it for the first time, the dragon will take its turn, so it has its own round order token. And sometimes it will destroy a site, sometimes it will not do anything, and sometimes it will attack a player. Which in solo means it will destroy a site in the first turn. Then after the third it will attack the player. And from the 5th turn onwards, it will always destroy a site. So this is also somewhat limiting your potential for a single round, because you probably do not want to play a 5th, 6th, and 7th turn and have 3 sites being destroyed. In this scenario, we only have 5 countryside tiles and then 3 core tiles. One of them will be the lair, one of them will be a neutral city where the dummy and I have a shield, and the last one will just be a regular tile. So you could even find the lair in the first core tile, which does mean rushing to the core tiles and or the dragon is really feasible, I think, in this scenario. The basic settings say to set all the heads of the dragon, so he has 4 regular heads and 1 control head, to level 4, which I think, as usual with these kinds of scenarios for an advanced player, is probably too easy. So the first question I really had to face was, what do I actually set this to? I'm thinking of something like 7, 8, or 9. And looking through the heads a bit, especially the control head, which either attacks you with a psychic attack, or improves the attacks of all the other heads, or attacks you with the attack of a possessed enemy, like a dungeon enemy, a dragon, or both at level 11. I do want to go for a psychic attack just to get more knowledge with this, so the only psychic attacks after level 5 and 6 are at level 9. So that finally was the reason why I am going with level 9. So there's a little bit of room to go for 12, but let's see how this goes. So the controller will attack with a psychic attack of 9 if I assault a dragon. It always has the level of the highest other head of the dragon. So in theory, you could even mix and match the levels of the heads, I think. But let's just go with level 9, which does mean that one head attacks with a brutal fire attack of 8 and will have a physical resistance. Another head will have 2 physical poisonous attack of 5 and will have ice resistance. The other 2 heads will actually have cold fire resistance. So that's a bit special with level 9 here. And one attack will be a level 7 ice attack that freezes. The other will be a swift physical attack of 8. I've laid out the heads in this particular fashion here so I can also see level 1, 2, and 3. Because if the dragon attacks you, it will not be determined by the level you set for the scenario, but it will be the round number. So in the first round, if you get attacked, it's all level 1 heads. So it will all be attacks of 2, which is 1 ice, 1 fire attack, which is freezing or paralyzing and or brutal. And the 2 physical attacks are poisonous and swift. But in round 2, it will shift to level 2. So this attack, for example, becomes physical. So arguably even easier because the armor does not matter. But this head will suddenly be swift and poisonous. This one will still be freezing, but just in quotes an attack of 3, which is again arguably easier to block than 2 ice. And you do not want to ignore this attack. And this attack will be brutal instead of poisonous. So there will be some slight increase, but this does not depend on the difficulty. They take up a lot of space, but I think it's good to see the armor and the attacks of the final attack, so I can prepare the adequate range attack and block if I need block. But we also need to see level 1, 2, and 3, and I do not want to always get these out and put them away again. As for the heroes, without the expansion there were 7, so I always left out the hero I played and rolled between the other 6. And then I rolled again with the spot that was taken with the hero that I played, so there was still a chance I could roll again. But this was the way I determined the 2 heroes. I then decided between which one to play, because I do want to get forced to play other heroes. I do not just want to pick one, but I also do not just want to roll for one and be stuck with this. I still want to have a choice. Now that there are 8 heroes, I have to switch that up, and I, to be honest, just left them both out. So the hero I played and the dummy, and just rolled with 2 dice. and it came up as Krang and Tovak. And Tovak sounds like a good idea to be able to block more because it's really a block heavy character, but I do not want to play the perfect match character, at least on paper, in the first try, so I'm going with Krang. I like Krang, and Tovak will be my dummy again. I'm probably saying again because he was my dummy quite a lot, because I'm usually not favoring Tovak over other heroes. But I do not dislike him, I usually just play other heroes, and in this scenario, as I said, I did not want to pick like the perfect match. We are going with planning, because we have a first turn that plays 3 cards, leaves 2, that's perfect to have planning kick in, and we'll have a higher hand limit to maybe take the keep. Let's see if the dummy goes before us or not, but it's probably not that relevant, since the dragon will start destroying sites in the 5th or after the 5th, and then every turn after. So the dummy goes with Rethink, which doesn't mean we have Tovak, the dummy, then Krang, and then the Apocalypse Dragon as a round order. So we start with the first turn of the dummy. And the first 3 cards are red, white, and green. So we hit a card. The dummy has no crystal off, so a short turn. Then it's our turn, and the idea was to play the Savage Harvesting, discarding Tranquility, which would give us a green crystal, and then play the Crystallize with the blue source die, so we can pick up whatever we like. We still have red in the source and a gold die, and we just got a green crystal. So I think it's either blue or white, and since we do have a swiftness, maybe a mana draw coming up with a black die in the source, I think I will pick up a white, which if nothing else would also allow us to power a promise later to maybe hire the golems. Green, if we would not get any, would be really important to power concentration if we pick that up, but it's pretty much our first turn. So these cards are discarded. We reroll the blue die. Funnily enough, it stays blue. So I'm feeling quite happy with my crystal choice. And since planning kicks in, we are drawing up to 6 cards. So let's see what we get. The concentration is here, nice. It's not that important for a 45 side, of course. A rage, that's really welcome if you want to fight. Another swiftness, not sure if this is good or not. Maybe we use it for movement. And a promise, that's a little bit early. But if you don't need it for taking the keep, that would be awesome to have for hiring the golems afterwards. And of course, Krang stepped through the portal and we used Savage Harvesting to approach the keep. I totally forgot that. But it was the purpose of playing Savage Harvesting. And without powering it, we could then discard just 1 card to gain a crystal, but it was enough. And we also revealed the defenders, that's actually quite important. And I think that's very lucky. These are crossbowmen, so it's hard to block, but easy to kill. Maybe it's not that lucky then after all, because we would need to deal with the wounds. But it would be our first turn, and now the dragon takes his first turn. And just to show this, in solo, it destroys a site in the first turn, nothing in the second, attacks me in the third, nothing in the fourth, and then in the 5th onward, it will destroy another site. Since all these sites are in the same distance, I think I will destroy the white mine, because it's really out of position and we might need the village to heal. Which does mean the dragon flies over, destroys the mine. This is where these tokens come in to say that this is reduced to rubble and fire. And that's the first turn of the dragon. So we get to the second turn of the dummy. And the next 3 cards are blue. Blue, that's awesome. And white, another card here does not have a crystal off. But again, the dummy I think is not the most important timer in this scenario where you have the dragon. This brings us to our second turn, and now we need to think about how to take this keep. So we can take the keep, of course. That's not that hard with these defenders. A rage on its own will defeat them, and we cannot really block the attack of 4. Since it's swift, it would be block 8. We don't have the cards for that. So the question is more about what the next turns bring, and we decided to play the march and the swiftness now for movement 4. That's enough to reach the keep. We would only need 3, but then we can assault the keep. We lose our reputation bonus, of course, for this. Then we need to defend against this. The attack we just need to take with 2 armor and an attack of 4, that's 2 wounds. So we get them into hand. And then we use a red source die to power rage for an attack of 4, which defeats the crossbowman. So we get fame 3, but a bonus fame from Blizzard rules. So we are actually at fame 5 then. This is planning for the next turn, and we just played the rage now. We are marking the keep with our shield, but I fear the keep will not last. So we reroll the red die, comes up white, quite interesting. And we do still have planning, so with 5 cards in hand we will draw the card that we get from level up. So let's see what the level up brings. And the choice is between Shamanic Ritual, that's so nice. That's a skill that gives you once per round any mana that you want. And if as an action of the turn you're not doing anything else, you can actually flip that back and use it again. The other skill choice is the cooperative skill, that's mana enhancement. So it's also a mana skill, but in contrast, of course, a little bit more complicated. When you use a mana of a basic color, you can put it into the center and gain a crystal. So once you pay it, you get a crystal, which means you use it and crystallize it, so it's a bonus mana. And then in the next turn you can use this as a token of the color. So in essence you're getting 2 more mana of a color that you already used. And I think in comparison, I'd rather use this because it's much more flexible. This gives you a lot more mana of what you already used, and usually with a starting deck where you have only 4 cards of any given color, using 3 mana of the same color is actually not that easy unless you're wanting to do an altar or something like this. So I think in comparison this is just much more flexible. And for the card we decided to go with Song of Wind, so we have a nice way to get away from the keep in our 4th turn, because in the 3rd we want to hire. So we are getting Song of Wind, we are getting Shamanic Ritual. This goes to the offer, let's make that here. And the Torvak skill is Night Sharpshooting. That could be interesting against the dragon. The replacement advanced action is Innate, which I find quite interesting for this scenario. It's a 3/5 influence card, so already good in itself. And it gives you influence for wounds, which might be nice if you are getting shredded by the dragon. Alright, but that's the level up. And since we do have 5 cards and planning, we will actually draw the Song of Wind, which is not that important to be honest. In some other scenarios we discussed, drawing pure magic, for example, would have allowed us to use that to hire the Guardian Golems. But it was our 2nd turn. So now it's the dragon's 2nd turn, but in the 2nd turn he will not do anything, which is nice because we still want to use the keep once before it's getting destroyed. Which does mean we are in the 3rd turn now. Let's see what the dummy does. And the next 3 cards are red, blue and blue. Okay, so we finally hit a card that he actually has crystals for, and he has 2. So there's another white and another red. And we are in our 3rd turn. And since the information was already open on planning, there's nothing that got revealed besides the color of the die that was rolled. We already know that we want to use the concentration promise combo, of course with the gold die, to get influence 6. And then we need to play card sideways, and we are not playing the Song of Wind sideways, so we are playing this sideways for a 7th influence point, because we did lose our bonus from the assault of the keep to then hire the Guardian Golems. I think they are far too valuable against the attacks of the dragon to not pick them up. And unfortunately that's already it, because we cannot manage the wounds in any other way. We do not want to rest here, because the dragon will now attack, which does mean we are playing these 3 cards. We've played concentration and bow swiftness for this round, so we will not do any combo there. Reroll the die, comes up as green, so we're just lacking red now. But we do have our ritual here to get us any mana we want. And again, we have more than 1 card, so even 3. So planning kicks in and we are drawing 3 cards, which is mana draw, stamina, but we really need something to block the dragon now. And another stamina. Okay, so lots of movement. But let's see, we are on the fortified side and we have our golem, so maybe that's even enough in the 1st round. So this was our 3rd turn, and now it's the dragon's 3rd turn, and in this turn he will actually attack me. And attacking means we are disregarding the control head, and all the other heads will attack with the level of the round number, which is round 1. So we have a brutal fire attack of 2. We do have a physical swift attack of 2. We have a physical poisonous attack of 2. And we have an ice attack of 2 that's actually freezing or paralyzing. But we are in the fortified side, we are on the keep here. So inhabited, it's the 1st point, that means they can help. And if it's fortified, they can actually help twice with 2 heads. And I do think we are done with the keep because we managed to hire before the end of the 3rd turn. So I think we will use the fortified side and just ignore 2 heads. Let's ignore the brutal fire and the freezing cold attack, which leaves a swift physical of 2 and a poisonous of 2. And the Guardian Golems can just shrug off one of the 2 attacks. And if we activate them, they have an attack or block of 2. So the block 2 will just block the other one, not the swift one. So we should block the poisonous attack and run the swift attack into the resistance of the golems. Which would mean by just activating and using them, we are not getting any additional wounds. So I think that's quite perfect, because we managed to get into the fortified side and hire the golems with the right timing. I think that went perfectly. Whenever the dragon attacks, you have the choice, as in PvP, to either fully attend, which does mean we would need to flip our round order token. So the next time we would have a turn, we just flip it back, but we lose the turn. But the upside is that you can then use your source die, your once per turn skills and all that nice stuff that you have once per turn. If you're not fully attending, you're not getting these once per turn things. But I do believe using units is not a 1 per turn thing, because it's a 1 per round thing, so we can still do that. And we did not use a source die, and we did not need our skill. Because for example, if we want to use fire block or ice block, we would need the mana, so we could use crystals of course, but we could neither use the source nor the skill. So I don't think we need to fully attend, and that's just the 3rd turn of the dragon. So the dragon is flying away again, and this means it's the 4th turn of the dummy. The dummy has 5 cards left. We have a reveal 3 blue, so if you're hitting the blue, it will exhaust this deck. Let's see. There's a red, there's a green, and there's another green, which he does not have a crystal of. So there should be 1 blue in here. Actually, I miscounted. Yes, it's because of cold toughness, so he already has 4 blue lying here. So it was actually safe. Which brings us to our 4th turn. But before we planned a turn, I actually forgot that the keep was destroyed by the dragon because we used it. So I'm not sure what happens with the shield. I'm leaving it here. Maybe it's relevant for scoring, I don't know yet. But the dragon reduced the keep to rubble as well. So we are now standing in the rubble and the keep is destroyed. So we do need to move on, and the Song of Wind is the perfect action for this because it means if powered with a source die, we have movement 2 and the movement cost of plains, deserts and wastelands is reduced by 2 to a minimum of 0, which does mean the plains here are actually movement cost 0. So we can move here, even here if we want to, just for free. And the 2 movement costs that we do have used to reveal. And depending on the outcome, we might want to power more staminas because we do have a lot of mana sources with mana draw and our ritual. And so this might actually be really nice to then explore even further or go even further. So let's explore this tile here, which is either of the 3. We have to roll that out. Let's make this tile blue and red and this tile white and green. So this will be gold and black. There comes a blue, so it will be this tile here. So we are swapping them and roll for orientation again, which is also blue, so it's 1 notch clockwise. And there is a monastery that could be good to heal. That's the regular orientation, rotated once. So actually there's also a glade. So 2 ways to heal, but unfortunately they are both on the other side of the tile. So we do have a blue mine facing us. There are orc summoners, 4 fame unit that if we can kill in range would be really nice, but we are all out of range currently. There's a monastery where we can learn Heroic Tale, and we do have a magical glade. So there are some options on how to proceed. The glade would be interesting to heal. We cannot reach this. This is nothing we can fight off. The remaining cards we have in the deck are a rage, a determination, so 2 fighting cards, an improvisation, it can be anything of course, and a ruthless coercion that could ready the golems, but to what end? So we'd rather go to the oasis to get in a position for the tower, see the defenders, use the oasis to heal because it's also possible because we do know we get improvisation for influence. Which does mean for now we are using Song of Wind to move into the village for free. And what we then do is we are flipping the shamanistic ritual for a white token so we can power the mana draw. So let's put that here. And then we are pulling the black die from the mana source and turn it to blue. This gives us 2 blue tokens that we then use to power both stamina. So we now have another movement 8 at our disposal, which is enough to explore another tile. And after that, we actually plan to move here for 0, 3 and 3, because this is reduced from 5 to 3 from the Song of Wind. So we are not provoking anything, we'll end in the oasis. But we want to get the exploration done and scout one of these 2 tiles. So let's say this is a light tile, so gold, white and green. And this is then black, red and blue. It comes up as black, so this is actually the tile we do explore. Let's roll for orientation. It's red, so 2 clicks counterclockwise. So this is the regular orientation and it's 1 and 2. So funnily enough, we are facing an oasis. And besides the keep, there is the other deep mine, which is blue and white. There's an oasis facing us and a ziggurat. But this doesn't change anything. It's nice that there is a site that's really far from the portal that's preventing these things from being destroyed. And the next sites actually would be this line here, because the monastery is the straight way from the portal, so all these are in the same distance. So this is the next distance, and then this is this. So from the destruction point of view, it's now the keep, and then any of the 3 where we can decide. So this is nice. The oasis is not really tempting because we really want to pick up spells. So this is why we stick with the original plan. We did now pay 2 of the 8 movement to explore, and we still have 6 left. So this is 0 movement, that's 3 for the hills, and 3 for the desert at day because of the reduction from the Song of Wind. Which does mean we are revealing the defenders. We actually reveal them when we are here, so we can still decide to move somewhere else. We have 3 movement points left then. And these are actually ice mages, so 5 ice attack and an armor of 6, which is ice resistant. Probably not the worst token, actually quite a good one. And we do want to visit the oasis, of course, because we do want to heal, and there's nothing else to move to that makes any sense. Because without the Song of Wind, the oasis will be movement 5, and it's nothing we want to pay at day. So these tokens were produced from mana draw. This was from shamanic ritual, and since we are not interacting and we are not fighting, we are spending our action of the day to actually flip this back. So this was set blue. This was used and will be rerolled now, and all these cards we have played. The die actually comes up gold, so mana is really not a problem currently. And since we did not went with the plan to go to the Glade, we are not healing a wound, but we do still have 2 cards, so planning still kicks in, which does mean we see the rest of our deck, which is exactly 4 cards. So there's the improvisation, there's the determination, there's the ruthless coercion, and the rage. But it's our 4th turn. The dragon does not do anything after the 4th turn, which brings us to the 5th of the dummy. He does have only 2 cards, so he is now out of cards, which brings us to our 5th turn. And the dragon will then destroy a site. It's nothing we can prevent unless we are announcing the end of round, which would be quite stupid, to be honest. So we went through the options on what to do with the last and 5th turn, and actually it might make sense to do another 6th turn and have the dragon destroy another site, because we have revealed enough sites, so it should be somewhat safe. If you're not planning to visit any of this, then this can all be destroyed because it's the farthest away from the portal. And with 2 turns we can actually at least kill these rampaging enemies. It's just to fame, but also reputation, and it might actually be a good thing to pick that up. So what we are doing with the 5th turn is we are actually provoking this token here. It has an annoying attack because it's attacking twice, but 1 attack can actually be absorbed by the golems. They are really nice if you have golems like this. So it's their physical resistance, so they can just negate 1. And the other we can block with determination easily, so we're not getting any wounds. And then if we just use a rage with the gold die from the source, then they are actually dead, which does mean we get 2 fame. We are not leveling, but it still helps us in progressing, because not leveling twice in the first round is not the best outcome, to be honest, but it makes it a little bit better. But we do also get a reputation, so we are back at +1, and that's really it for the 5th turn. So these 2 cards are then discarded. Die comes up green. It's not a problem because we do have our wildcard mana here. We are of course not drawing anything because the deck is empty. The dragon will then destroy a site, and I think it's clear that the keep is the furthest away. So this is just taken care of. Let's reveal and discard this, or do we just put it back to the stack? There's enough in the stack. Let's reveal that. So there were golems. Keep is destroyed. So we mark this with one of the tokens that it's reduced to rubble. In the 6th turn, the dummy will now announce the end of round because his deck is empty. So we mark this by cleaning this up. So now we have a 6th turn. And the nice thing is that with the shamanistic ritual, we do have a red. So we can power improvisation. That's 5 influence. And we do not need ruthless coercion then, so we can avoid the reputation penalty. And with the reputation bonus, we now have influence 6. And influence 6 in Oasis is 2 healing, so we can actually heal the 2 wounds. So that's that. We have played everything. And the dragon, unfortunately, in his 6th turn will again destroy a site. So now he will destroy a site every turn we take. But since we then announce the end of round, or actually since the end of round was already announced, the dragon might not even destroy a site because the dummy did announce the end of round. That's quite interesting, because this means that my 6th turn is actually free. Yes, and of course that's true. The dummy is the replacement for other players, and it's irrelevant if the dummy announced the end of round or I do. It's announced, so after the announcement of the end of round by a Tovak, I get a turn, but the dragon does not. It's specific in the rules that once the end of round was announced, the dragon does not get any further turns. So he's actually not destroying another site, which is perfect, which does mean it was not actually something to consider. And I have healed now, so we can take the tower as the first action of the 2nd round of the first night. So I'm really happy how this went. Again, we revitalize in the Oasis, so if we start our turn here, we gain movement 2. That's quite important, because it means that moving to an Oasis will give you some of the movement back, which is a really nice idea. And we could actually use crystals for influence, or influence for crystals, but we did not want to do that. We have 2, that should be enough. We have our shamanistic ritual, so that has to be okay. All right, so that's the first day. I think overall that went quite nicely, especially since I did not get any wounds from the dragon because of the timing. Since I got to the keep in the 2nd turn, could hire in the 3rd. So I have these nice golems, which are really MVPs here. They have done a lot of work already against the dragon and now. But I have only leveled once, picked up the Song of Wind, picked up a unit. I'm almost leveling again. I've explored a lot, that's true. So this is really good. But I'm in a perfect position to now take the tower, take the fireball, kill the summoners, explore the last countryside tile, hopefully get to this monastery. Let's see what we can learn there, and we can always burn it down before the dragon does. And then we are already in the core tiles, maybe even at the lair. But then we really need to think about how do we get enough attack to actually kill the dragon. Maybe we do it in 2 goes, let's see. 36 range attack seems a bit out of reach, but let's see what spells we get. So to clean up, we are readying the golems and flipping the shamanistic ritual. The deck again does not have any additions besides the Song of Wind, so nothing to talk about. Planning and Rethink are now burned. We somewhat consciously gave pure magic to the dummy, so we have still Blood Ritual at our disposal, and we could use the Song of Wind. I think it was quite a good pickup, but this means he now has a 5th card of the crystal colorway he has 2 from. But let's shuffle his deck, and we give him a white crystal from Charm. That should be enough for the dummy deck. We are definitely not tossing Fireball, because we really want that. But there's an argument to be had to get rid of the Blood Ritual, since we do have a lot of mana with Krang and Shamanistic Ritual already, but I don't want to risk it, so we leave this as well. And the advanced action of our refreshes with Swift Bolt, that's actually something that I definitely want to pick up, because it's just range attack 4 and we do need physical for 2 of the heads. So with concentration that would already be 6. It's not killing a head, but at least it's something. And the spell of our refreshes with Whirlwind, which is not helpful at all, because both abilities do not work against arcane immune enemies. So I'd rather want to see some spells with range attack. But that's the offers. Let's get rid of the unit offer and see what we can learn in the monastery. So for the unit offer, we do have Crossbowmen, very nice. Range attack, it's not much, but at least something. Scouts, that's also ranged, or even siege. Foresters, they're good in soaking damage actually, and also movement, some block. And Shock Troops, which is also range attack and can improve other attacks. And the advanced action of in the monastery is Stout Resolve. It's not range attack, but a good card, and at least it helps with the wounds I'm getting. The source of the first night shows a green, blue, red, and a black die. So we just shuffle our deck and then we are ready to go. So our opening hand is just in quotes 5 cards, because we of course did not level enough yet and we don't have planning. So Ruthless Coercion, Stamina, Swiftness, March, and Rage. So not a lot of firepower, although Rage and the Golem would be enough to kill the mages. So maybe that has to do. Let's put the dragon here. And this brings us to tactic selection. So with the current situation, it's clear that we need to take the tower. We unfortunately did not level, so we can't hire and spend some preparation turning Oasis. It's really pointless. And blocking the ice mages with the guardian golems is not a good idea, because we lose the damage that we need to kill them. We need more mana, and they are not even blocking them by themselves. So in this sense, we are not even trying that. We are choosing preparation as our tactic. This is also why I have the deck in hand already, and we are pulling the Tranquility. That might be an odd choice, but that's what we are going for. So we shuffle the deck. That should be enough. And then we see what the dummy picks. And the dummy goes for Midnight Meditation. I'm okay with that. It does, however, mean that the dummy goes first. So we still have Tovok, Krang, and then the Apocalypse Dragon. And we start with the first turn, where the dummy plays blue, blue, and green. That's, I think, the perfect opening. Slow turn, 2 blue cards are re-eliminated. We then get to our first turn, and the idea is to assault a tower. We started the Oasis, so we have movement 2. The Mage Tower is in health, so we need 1 more movement point, which does mean that we have to sacrifice any 1 card. It really doesn't matter. Rage we need for fighting. Tranquility for healing, that's why we pulled it. Which does leave 2 movement cards, Swiftness and Ruthless Coercion. This I want to hold on to as well, to interact and already my units. And I think I want to hold on to the Swiftness. Maybe we can use that in the monastery, for example. Which means 1 of the 2 movement cards. We are about to use a green, so I'm leaving the blue because there's blue in the source. So we're using March to assault. We do lose our reputation bonus for this, unfortunately. The Ice Mages then attack us with an attack of 5. We're taking 3 wounds ourselves. Again, unfortunately, because we did not level up yet. We are then using the Golems for 2 attack, and we are using the Shamanistic Ritual to produce a red token to power the Rage. That's an attack of 6, which does kill the mages, which does mean we have conquered the tower. We had 5 fame, which means that we would be at 12, but Blizzard rules mean we are at 13. 2 fame away from leveling again, which we will do with the Orcs quite soon. After the battle, that's the point of Tranquility, we use the green source die to heal 2 of the wounds. It's just easier than trying to block this. Unfortunately, we still have 1 in hand, but yeah, it's not perfect, but it has to do. And that's really our first turn. So the token goes away. All these cards are played. Let's make room for the discard pile. And we still have 4 cards in hand. Let's see what a die comes up. Also black, unfortunately. But we now have an arm of 3 and a second command slot, which is the important part. This brings us to the combat rewards, which would have been before the level up, but in this case it doesn't matter, of course. And of course we will take the Fireball. It's a range attack, it's fire damage, which is nice with the resistances of the dragon heads, and we can just kill the summoners next turn, so this is why we picked that. And of course we will just draw it, because we will draw up 2 and limit of 5. The replacement spell in the offer is Underground Travel or Attack. It is a good movement skill, but in a scenario without fortification it's not that important. So that's our first turn, which brings us to the Apocalypse Dragon. And in the first turn he will destroy a site, which is the furthest away from the portal, which as said is either the mine, the ziggurat, or the glade. And I do think the mine is too far out of position anyway. I will not visit that, so let's destroy the mine. So we can move the dragon here, and that's his first turn, which brings us to the second. And the dummy plays blue, white, and red. So we are hitting a crystal, which is another white card. So in our second turn we will try to kill the summoners, but since there's the last unexplored countryside tile and we do have a movement phase before we kill this, we decide to use the swiftness, even though we could use it in a monastery. But this gives us the option to see what the tile is and then decide if you want to use the red or the blue source die to continue. So we're using the swiftness for movement 2, which reveals this tile. So there's no need to roll here, except for orientation of course, which is gold, so it is not rotated at all from its default orientation. And it's the very eventful tile with a keep, mage tower and a dungeon and a mountain range. And since it's not rotated, it's actually sitting like this, which is insanely good, I think. Of course, all these sites are in wasteland. That's the downside of the tile, and it's really bad to navigate that tile. And the keep is really out of position. But I think the keep is the least interesting. The mage tower is also not that interesting because the spell offer is kind of dry when it comes to this scenario, because chill and whirlwind are both not really good against the dragon, and underground travel and underground attack as well is not the most pressing concern. But a dungeon of course is a different matter, because this can give us an artifact. It's something that benefits from range attack. So this is a prime target besides the monastery of course. And once we draw the Song of Wind we can actually power that, and then it will be much easier to traverse the wasteland. And we can even maybe scout the first core tile, and maybe it's still there already. So there's no sense in going on, because we can just kill the summoners now and we will be in a tower where we could interact, and provoking them by moving out is not a good idea because we will be stuck at planes and we would have to move again. So let's use the fireball, using the red source die for ranged fire attack 5. The summoners have no resistances and an armor 4, so they will just be dead. This gives us a reputation, so we are at +1 again, but more importantly for fame. So we are at 17, and again with Blizz rules we will be at 18. We are not using anything else, so these cards are discarded. It's a better part of our range attack in the deck. We reroll the die. Comes up green, it could be interesting. But now we proceed to the level up and see first what skill we get. And the choice is between Battle Frenzy, so that's the +2 attack skill, unfortunately not ranged. And if we flip this, we can even make it +4. And whenever we do a resting turn, we can actually flip that back. And the other skill choice is the Master of Chaos. I have to confess I never played that, as said in another video. When you get that, you roll a color and then you mark it with a shield. So once per turn, you can move it to the next position clockwise and either get 3 block, 1 move, 1 cold fire range attack, 2 influence, 2 attack, and in the leftmost position you can actually choose the bonus. And if you're not using it, you at any time before your next turn you can actually move it forward. So you don't need to use the bonus if it doesn't fit in. These bonuses are all in the ballpark of usual skills, but it's literally chaos, which means that you cannot rely on this. But then again, you can leave it at a point where you think you will soon need it and then make use of it. So with the second turn being almost over and after the third we will be attacked by the dragon, we better stay at the tower. We pick up Knight Sharpshooting because it's 2 range attack now in the final round and 1 in the next round. And we are just picking up Blood Ritual because we do not have a red and we really need to ready the golems to be ready for the dragon. Which does mean these 2 go to the offer. We can't pick them up ourselves anyway. And next time we can pick up the cooperative skill of Tovak, which is the Mana Overload, which is also a mana skill, so you get a mana of any color except gold. And next turn, if you use a skill which uses that mana, you can add +4 to it. The advanced action offer refreshes with counter attack, quite interesting. But let's see level up. So we are drawing, which is of course the Blood Ritual first, and then a Rage. That's our second turn. The dragon doesn't do anything in his second turn, so we're up to the third. And the dummy plays red, red, and green, so another short turn. In this scenario, it might not even be good if the dummy is too slow, because it might be really nice if you get 6 turns and the dummy announces end of round after 5, so the dragon does not destroy another side in his 6th turn. But let's see how it works out. So that's the dummy third, and in our third turn, we are not leaving the tower, that's the whole point. And since we do not have red, but we really need to cast this powered, we will use the Blood Ritual, again without red because we don't have it. It gives us a red crystal. We unfortunately pick up another wound, but the idea would be to use the blue source die next turn to get to the monastery and heal. Unless we have no influence card, then we are just resting instead. And with the other mana token we get, which can be any color, we are using Ruthless Coercion for influence 6, 7 due to the bonus. And the Rage Sideways makes it 8. So in this sense it's good that it's not one of the other cards you might need later. And with 8 influence we can use 4 to ready the golems and another 4 to pick up the scouts in the mage tower. So we have filled our second slot. This is discarded, the cards are used, and our hand is a bit clogged up, but we still draw 2 cards, which is a promise that's really nice, because it means that we can actually heal with influence and not just rest, and a crystallize. So that's our third turn, and the dragon will now attack us again. So we'll fly by, and we are in a fortified site, an inhabited site, that we can sacrifice to ignore 2 attacks of the heads. And since now it's around 2, we will have a brutal physical attack, so in a sense that's easier than on level 1. We'll have a brutal physical attack of 3, so no longer poison, but a larger attack. Both having the problem that if we are not blocking them, they will be doubled. Then there is a swift poisonous attack instead, which is harder to block. But I think that's the best attack for us with the golems, because we can just ignore it. You can just run it into the golem. Swiftness and poison doesn't matter at that point. And we do have a freezing attack that's physical 3, so easier to block than the level 1 if you don't have access to fire block. So as said, we will run this head with 2 physical attack, swift and poisonous into the golems, which have physical resistance. Poisonous and swiftness at that point is irrelevant. And then we are activating the guardian golems for block 2 to block this head, which has a physical brutal attack, but brutal is only relevant if you're not blocking it. And the other 2 heads we can ignore because we are in a site that we can sacrifice, which unfortunately means that this tower is destroyed. We leave the shield again because I'm not sure if we score for this later, and the tower will be reduced to rubble. And this means we are not fully attending. We have not used any skills. We have not used mana die from the source or any such thing. We just used our units. And that's the 3rd turn of the dragon, which brings us to the 4th of the dummy. At that point, the dummy has 7 cards in his deck, so there's no chance to exhaust it yet. Blue, green, and red, which is another card, which is white. So 3 cards left, so we will exhaust it anyway. It doesn't matter what crystals he has. Which does mean we have 3 turns. 3 turns means that he's exhausting his deck after this one, so we have another. This is then our 5th and the dragon's 5th. And then we will actually announce the end of round for us, which means we have another turn, a 6th one, but the dragon does not. So actually it's quite perfect. Alright, so we can plan our 4th turn. We actually realized that Ruthless Coercion would have cost us a reputation, since we went down to 0 with the tower, went up with the orc, and now we are down again. And in the 4th turn we will then use the scouts for movement 2. We could also reveal a space from 2 tiles away, but we don't want to. We are using the stamina, just unpowered, that's 4 movement. And with the 4 movement we can move through planes to the monastery. This leaves the blue source die to power crystallize, and in the monastery we use a white crystal for influence 4, and we don't have a bonus, but that's enough to heal the wounds, so we don't need to get rid of them by resting, so they're gone for good. I think that's much better. This will all be used, but we can select any crystal that we want. And we do have green in the source and a crystal. We do have a red crystal, which leaves a white or a blue. And I do think white is swiftness, white is mana draw. I think that's the better pick, so we just get the white crystal back. So we reroll the die. Comes up black as well, so it's really getting dry. The dragon will not do anything in the 4th turn, which brings us to the 5th. In the 5th, the dummy will exhaust his deck, so blue, white, and green. And we should have drawn, of course, still 2 hand him in a 5. So there's an improvisation, the Song of Wind, a mana draw, a determination, and Savage Harvesting. And we can plan our 5th turn. So for the last 2 rounds, we will first interact with the monastery and then most likely burn it down. But we will play the Song of Wind to explore, to see our first core tile, which might be the lair, hopefully not. Because if it's the lair, the dragon will start destroying sites that are closer to the lair, which endangers our dungeon, and I don't want that. So there's only a 1 in 3 chance that it's the lair, and I kind of hope it's not, actually. With the rest of the turn, we will then interact with the monastery. We will need to use the crystal, unfortunately, so we are getting 5 influence and 1 sideways card for 6, and then learn the Start Resolve. And we will then hold on to the mana draw, Start Resolve in the last 3 cards of the deck, and then have Concentrated Swiftness to burn down the monastery. But let's reveal first, and then we can decide if this plan still holds up. As I said in the beginning, one of the tiles is actually fixed, so one of them is the lair. I think it's the core tile 3. One is the city, which I don't know which it is, and then we picked randomly one of the new tiles, just that you have more of an opportunity to see them. And since these are really easy to distinguish, we will now just roll. Let's make the new tile gold and black, one of these tiles red and blue, and the other one green and white, and just roll a mana die. The die comes up black, so it's actually the new tile, which does mean it's not a lair. We do roll for orientation. Comes up red, so rotate it twice counterclockwise. So this would be the regular orientation, and we rotate it twice, which does actually reveal another monastery, so we could even learn something else, depending on what we reveal now. On the tie, we do have the monastery, where there's actually a fireball to learn. That will be a tough decision, because it's also range attack with an element, with a good one for the final battle. There's a summoning dragon, which could be interesting for the next day to kill with our fireball, and maybe also the firebolt if you pick it up, an oasis, a pyramid, and a mountain. So the dragon will most likely destroy the pyramid first, and then either the dragon, the oasis, the monastery, or the keep, which gives me a lot more time to go to the dungeon. And we will have to explore the core tile here, the next one. If it's still not the lair, we have to put it here. These are coastline spaces, so this will not work. But I'm quite happy with this. But we do have to think about what to learn now. So we slightly changed the plan that we are holding on to Savage Harvesting to maybe pick up a crystal next turn. And we are using a red crystal of improvisation, discarding mana draw and playing a determination sideways for 6 influence. We don't have a bonus. And we are picking Firebolt up after all. It will be more secure to burn on a monastery. And range attack is quite welcome. And if nothing else, it will give us a red crystal if it's not actually needed for the next turn. So that's then all played. Crystal unfortunately is gone. And we did not touch the source, but we do need this for concentration next turn anyway. So that's our 4th turn. We do draw the rest of our deck, which is of course the Fireball that we just picked up. And the Song of Wind of course is also discarded. There's the Stamina, and there's the Swiftness, and there's the Concentration. So we did not screw up in planning that. Which doesn't mean the dragon is now destroying a site. And the furthest away is definitely the mountain, which of course it can't destroy, but the pyramid and the forest are on the same distance, so the pyramid is destroyed. Again, the dummy will announce the end of round in his 6th turn, so let's get rid of the deck to mark this. And now we play our 6th turn. So it's a tough decision on what to do with the last and 6th turn here. If we burn it down now, or if we go to the dungeon, which we can do because we have movement 4 now. The Savage Harvesting play actually does not work because we don't have a spare card. At least we do not know what will be the spare card if there's any. So moving this without powering any of this does not give us a crystal, unfortunately. We would have to probably power this and then toss this, which gives us a blue. So instead we are using these 4 movement points to travel to Wasteland, leaving the monastery for the next day, not ruining our reputation, and maybe being able to pick up another nice advanced action or a unit for our 3rd slot that we will get quite soon. On the other hand, if we are not getting 6 fame now, then we will probably not have the slot at the beginning of the next day. If we then level by burning it down, we will not have the option. But we do have so much firepower here with elements and physical. We can even come up to 10 if we want to, if we use a crystal, that I think it's good to deal with the dungeon now. The Crypt is the only thing that will screw us because it has fortification. So we do enter the dungeon and see what we get. And the monster we encounter in the dungeon is a Crypt That's comically bad. I think in the last videos I made, I had a lucky pull once or maybe twice, but most of the rest of the time I'm really getting screwed by this. This is quite annoying, to be honest, but it is what it is, so we can't kill it at range, and we don't have any block, and we can't use units, of course, but we do have an armor of 3, so at least that's just 2 wounds in quotes, and we left the monastery, so it might be easy to heal them next day. And then we only need 6 attack, which we can do by a concentrated swiftness. With Knight Sharpshooting, that's even 7 attack, even 7 range attack, but it does not do much, of course. But it will kill the token, which leaves the Firebolt open to at least give us a red crystal. So I think that makes the most out of it. Unfortunately, we are picking up 2 wounds that I would rather not have. And it's just 5 fame, unfortunately. But I'm not actually sure there's more fame than that in a dungeon. So we will sit at 23, again 1 fame short from the next slot. We mark the dungeon as being conquered by us. This die would be rerolled, but it's the end of the night anyway. Skill is used. And we do get our reward, which does mean rolling this, and if it's a non-standard color like black or gold, it's a spell, and I hope we do get an artifact. But of course, this also rolls black, so this is really sad. So we do have to pick up a spell, and chill with target enemy, lethal chill with target enemy, whirlwind with target enemy, and tornado with target enemy. All do not work against arcane immune enemies, so not against the heads of the dragon. So none of these spells will do anything for the final battle, and also they will not do anything against the Sounding Dragon, to point it out, because it's also arcane immune, which does mean Underground Travel might be the best pickup here, even though it's just a movement spell. That's so sad. I should not have gone to the dungeon, but again, hindsight is 2020. Let's try to make the best out of it. Yeah, I think Underground Travel is just the most flexible. It could even just bring us to the Oasis, for example, for 1 green mana, which usually would be a travel cost of 5 a day. So we are picking this up. It seems I can't catch a break with these pulls and rolls. The replacement spell is Call to Arms or Call to Glory. Nice. But that's it for the night. The dragon doesn't get a turn. We did almost level twice, but again, we are 1 fame short. That's really sad, even though it's Blizz rules. We are not in the positive reputation part. again, and we are planning to burn on Monastery, but we haven't yet, so we are still at 0, not -1. We just picked up the spell. We unfortunately also picked up 2 wounds, but we did pick up Firebolt. That's nice. Has the right element, it's ranged. We do have the Blood Ritual that we decided to pick up, which will solve mana issues for the final assault with black mana and other mana that we do need to make all this work. We did not pick up the Story Resolve for the Need, unfortunately, but specifically for the Need, it means that the dummy will pick it up. So you'll have a green card in his deck without having a green crystal. He will pick up a blue crystal, which he now has 3 of, and we gave him 1 blue card in the first round, so that's not optimal. And I will gladly use the control of the office to get rid of Whirlwind, but I will not use it for the Swift Bolt because it's range attack, and I think that's worthwhile keeping as an option. The advanced extra for refreshes with Into the Heat, that's nice, that's really good, because that means that the scouts will already have 4, and if we have any other chances to pick up range attack units, that could be a way to scale for the final battle. The spell offers showing Restoration and Tremor. Tremor again will not work because it's targeting enemies in both the regular and the powered version. Restoration is a good healing spell. We can even ready units, but it's hard to make good use of it. We ready our units, flip our mana skill, which unfortunately I think we could not do before, since we attacked, interacted, attacked, interacted, and attacked again, so I don't think there was much room for a turn without any other action. Preparation is gone, mid and meditation is gone. Well, I think that's fine. Start Resolve, unfortunately, is gone. But since we decided to leave the monastery, we'll have 2 advanced actions in the offer. One is the Crushing Bolt, so another range attack or even siege. And Pass, finding a nice movement skill. Units are replaced, and we will now have 2 silver, 2 gold. So let's see what the silvers are. Peasants, so not that interesting at that point. And Herbalists, which are a mana source, healing source, can ready other units, but also not that useful at that point. Let's see what the gold units are. That's much more important. We do have Gunners. That's really good. Range fire attack 6. But unfortunately, Keep and City. So unless this is the city, it will be quite hard to hire them. And Alter Mages. Now that's a broken unit. If you can pick it up in a city. Again, we would need a city for that. But those, of course, are always nice because you can turn every attack into siege. But we do not have a large attack source yet. Let's shuffle the dummy deck. Actually, I think I just realized that the dragon will not destroy a dungeon, because it will either destroy marauding enemies, or inhabited sites, or crystal mines. But adventure sites are really not inhabited sites, so I think they won't even be targeted by the dragon. Which kind of makes the discussions about the dungeon being in jeopardy quite pointless. But it's actually nice to realize and nice to know. But let's see what happens. So let's shuffle our deck. Unfortunately, we did not pull any units that can be hired in a monastery. Except the Herbalists, of course. But also, as almost anticipated, we are lacking 1 fame to have the slot anyway, so if we are now leveling using the monastery, then it's gone anyway. But maybe we can kill the dragon with Firebolt, Fireball, that would be nice. That's 9 fame, that really brings us forward. With Blitz Rules, that would be 33, so 2 fame away from leveling again and getting another skill and advanced action. The second day starts with gold, black, white and red in the source. And since we are lacking 1 fame, we are again just drawing 5 cards as a starting hand, which are the Firebolt, a Tranquility right away, a Blood Ritual, that might be a combination, a Concentration, interesting, and a Ruthless Coercion. Let's maybe move that here. And the remaining tactics are Early Bird, Right Moment, Mana Steal and Great Start. And let's think about what we do. So we don't go with Great Start because we do not have a movement, even though the scouts can move us to the monastery, but there's a reason to maybe go to this monastery first. Because it's in Swampland, so if you can invest this now and get an artifact from this and then go on from there and go into position, that might be better. And I'm just tempted to see what the 2 cards are I get, if this changes anything or not. We do have so much mana that if we get a movement card, then maybe these other monasteries are actually better to go first. And we will have the other one then to heal and learn maybe later. So let's just take Great Start and see what happens. And there's a 1 in 3 chance now that the dummy will pick up the right moment, otherwise he will again be before us. Which I think is not too bad. We will probably have 6 turns nevertheless. And the dummy goes with the right moment. That's actually lucky and interesting. So finally Krang is going before Tovak, and we can start with our first turn, but we will draw 2 cards first, which is a promise, maybe not something I wanted to see, and a swiftness. That's more range attack. Let's see what we can do with this. So we decide to attempt to burn down both monasteries, even though this will tank our reputation. And if we want to do that, we should really get into the Swamp Monastery at some point. That's 5 movement points, unfortunately. It's really rough terrain. But we have drawn the swiftness. We can play the Tranquility sideways, use the scouts. That's 5 movement points. We can then use the Blood Ritual with the red die from the source to take a wound, but we also get 2 other tokens. Let's just make them gold to power both of those. That's a combined 10 influence without a bonus. 2 will just heal this in the monastery, so we are at 8. Since this is level 1, we can just ready that for 2. That's 6. And let's clean it all up. So we do have enough to learn something, and we just pick up the Crushing Bolt. It's just maybe mana, maybe some range attack. That's just nice to have. And we are now in position to burn it down next turn. And depending what we draw, we can either heal or even attempt a dragon, so we are in a nice position. And we will have a good shot at just burning it down. Source die comes up blue, and we will draw 3 cards. There's the Crushing Bolt, of course, so 2 more. There's the Underground Travel, which we want to use to get away from this, to not provoke the dragon if we can't kill it. And there's a March, so more movement. So these 2 cards are not the best, actually, so we have to make do with this. But again, we have the combination that we have fire or physical, range attack 5 with 1 bonus here. And we hope that this time this will actually do. But it's 5 cards, unfortunately. We still have not increased our hand limit. The dummy goes after us. So his first turn he will draw red, blue, and green. So we already discarded the extra blue card and hit green again. It's lucky. And in the first turn of the dragon, he will destroy a site. So at that point, this was destroyed. So we are back to the dragon, actually. The dragon, the oasis, or this keep. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to the keep. So let's destroy this. Again, we reveal this. This time, these are guardsmen. And the keep is reduced to rubble. So that's the first turn of the dragon. And we are in our second turn. And at that point, I just want to enter. We do have a gold source die. So this can power concentration, and we will either have ranged fire attack or ranged physical or even siege attack. 5 with 1 point bonus, and I hope that's good enough. And we hold on to this to then move away next turn. So let's burn down the monastery. It costs us 3 reputation, so we're now at -1, and we will see what the defenders are. And the units will not participate, of course. And the defenders of the artifact in the cell of the monastery are sorcerers. So it's actually a lucky break for a change, because this or this will be 5, this is 6, so 1 card we can keep, the other one will go. And I think with a dragon right beside me, I will hold on to the firebolt. So that's siege attack 5, knight sharpshooting 6, and that just killed them. So we hold on to this, get 5 fame, 28 with blizzard rules 9. We mark the monastery with our shield. This is used. This will be rerolled. These are both used. We are not using anything else. Die comes up black, unfortunately. We will get the artifact before leveling, but let's just put that here. We finally have a hand limit of 6. And the choice of artifact is between the Amulet of the Sun, which can turn night into day rules. So we can use gold tokens, and it produces gold. And it also reduces the movement cost. Or the Endless Gem Pouch. So both are mana artifacts, but the Gem Pouch I think is better for us at that point. So we are taking that. So we are drawing up, and of course the first card is the pouch. Then we have a Rage and a Determination. So this was the second turn. Let's see what the dummy does. It's blue, white, and green, another green again, so another short turn. And the dragon in the second turn does nothing. So we are in our third turn. So lots of options here, but we really need to take care of the dragon's attack. It's already a third turn, so the dragon will attack me. And I did not really plan for this, and we are sitting on a burnt down monastery, and we should at least take shelter in any inhabited site that makes us ignore 1 head. 2 would be better, but that would pretty much mean backtracking to the tower, where we could pick up Call to Arms, but it's just the wrong direction. Would take a lot of movement, a lot of effort, so I think we rather move forward. And the first thing we do is using the Endless Gem Pouch, because we will definitely not break it, so we will see what we actually roll here. So you're rolling 2 mana dice. Actually, I think it's 1 by 1. Just a minute difference, but I think you have to decide what to do if you roll gold, for example, before you know what the other die is. And this is actually black, so it's a fame. Let's see what the other die is. And it is actually gold, so we can decide on the crystal. And I do think with Firebolt, Fireball, and the chance to kill the dragon, and the Guardian Golems also need blue or red, and we can't use the source, I think I take another red crystal. So that's the pouch. We then use the Shamanistic Ritual to produce green, because there's no green in the source, to cast Underground Travel. And we move up to 3 revealed spaces. We can't travel through swamps and lakes, of course, but these are mountains, this is desert, so we are stopping there. That's the Underground Travel. We then use the March also to see what tile is revealed here, if it's the lair or the city, because it makes quite a difference on how we will proceed. So we are just using this unpowered and see what we get. So we made space, and now we need to roll between these 2 tiles. Let's say these are the light colors, white, green, and gold, and it comes up green. So it's this tile, and we roll the rows for orientation. Does come up white, so it's rotated once counterclockwise. And let's see. And it's actually the city, it's the blue city. That would be the normal orientation, which would screw us over. but it's rotated once. That's actually quite nice. There's still a dragon barring the way, but I'm really happy that we found a city before the lair. I actually did not think about if I want to use random city colors, and I think I do. It's not about conquering cities, so the only difference in the color is really the ability of the city, what you can do there. I don't even remember what blue is, but I think without looking that up, I think I just want to roll, because I do like this combinatorics of 4 different tiles, 4 different city colors, and having like these 16 combinations instead of just 4. So let's just stick with this and roll for the city color. And it's actually white, so we are placing the white city, which I think means it's an artifact city now, and blue would have been a mage tower. And arguably the mage tower would probably be enough better because we are not that good in influence currently. So it's really unlikely to come up with 12 influence for an artifact. And I'm actually wrong. I can't really remember, it seems. So the white city is actually the city where you can hire units. So this might be a really nice turn. And we do have a shield, as has the dummy. This is often the case for these neutral cities and scenarios. In the Against the Horseman with the 4 cities, it was not said that you have a shield. I think that's good because there's 4 cities and you can just walk there, you know where they are. So I do think you don't need this extra boost of 1 influence. But here I appreciate it actually that we have +1, which makes it much more likely that we can actually hire something. And especially the ability to reveal new gold units for 2 influence might also be really good. The combat ability is not important, so let's just put the shields here from the dummy and me. Alright, that was the march. And interaction is actually quite pointless because we are not recruiting, because we don't have any influence. We are at -1. We are not trading for crystals. Actually, we could recruit by selling crystals, but we would need to sell 2 to pick up the herbalists, and I don't think that's a good deal. And revitalize is just important when you leave. So we are not interacting, which does mean we can just get our mana back. I think this is even better. So we have the shamanistic ritual flipped again, and there's our 3rd turn. So we do draw up to 6 cards. There's an improvisation, there's a swiftness, and a savage harvesting. So no fireball yet, unfortunately. The dummy plays red, green, and white, which is 1 more card, and I randomly pulled 4. That's nice. And this is blue, which is actually quite nice. So 3 of the blue cards are eliminated, and it's a fairly short turn as well. Which brings us to the dragon, and the dragon will attack me in the 3rd turn, so we will fly by again, and attack me with all heads but the control head. Now it's round 3, so we do have to deal with the level 3 attacks. I think I bumped it over a bit. Alright, so the golem has 3 armor and physical resistance, which mean we will just bump this head with swiftness, 3 physical into the golem. Then we will play determination and rage with block 2 each to block the 2 poisonous attacks of this head. Then we activate the golems with the red gem for a fire block of 4, which can block the ice attack. This leaves a brutal fire attack of 3, which we ignore by destroying the oasis. Actually, that means that we lose the 2 movement point bonus on leaving, but what can you do? So the oasis is reduced to rubble as well, so it's just a common desert at that point. So that's the dragon's turn. We did not fully attend, but we did play cards unfortunately, so we have to plan our 4th turn just with 4 cards. So if the oasis is gone, we can remove this and plan our 4th turn. The battle with the dragon left us with 4 cards only. That's a bit sad, so this limits our options, but we definitely want to get into the white city, which probably means getting wounded by the dragon, but it's just an attack of 4, but we do not have 4 armor yet, so we would have to wound a unit as well. And it would clog up our hand, and we already have seen the tranquility, so we could not even heal that. Which does mean we take it a little bit slow in the 4th turn, play these 2 for 4 movement. We are not getting a crystal because we don't have that many cards to toss. 4 movement is enough to get us to the hills. But we just take it easy here, and then actually if we are taking it that easy, we can flip the shamanistic ritual to power the savage harvesting, and then since we are not doing anything, flip this back. This will already bring us there, and we can either hold on to this or get a white crystal. Let's get rid of this, by the way. And I did not mention that in the other monastery revealed the Frostbridge to learn the monastery as well. And I think I do want to toss this for a white crystal, which is even better than what we planned. So it nets me 1 crystal with the shamanistic ritual play. If you do turns without any proper action, this is really nice. But this is our 4th turn, unfortunately, but we do draw 4 cards now. There's a wound, that's a bit sad. I should have known that there are wounds in the deck. The Song of Wind is really good, because it can mean that we can circumvent the dragon by walking over the water. Another wound, which I should have known about, but I did pause for a long time within the round here, so my memory is not that fresh, sadly. And a Crystallize. But maybe there's a play with hiring the herbalists. But it is our 4th turn, which means the dummy is playing his 4th. He has 8 cards in his deck. And he's playing green, blue, and white. So the blue was the 4th blue, that's nice. And white is just 1 more, which is red. So there's 4 cards left, but unless we are hitting green, we now have 3 turns. In the 4th turn, the dragon will not do anything, which brings us to our 5th turn. So it's really unfortunate, we are lacking the influence to do much. We can't use Song of Wind to go to the monastery and heal because we don't have influence. We can't really go to the city and hire the gunners again because of the influence. The only way to even get to the gunners is improvisation with 4 cards, 1 for improvisation, 3 to get the additional 3 influence that we are actually reaching 8. We do need to get rid of the wounds. We can't heal them, we can't hire the herbalists, we can't heal them in the monastery, so we need to rest, which does mean we can only use special effects, and we use the blue die to crystallize. And since we won't be able to kill the dragon, we just use the fireball to get another crystal, which does mean we pick up a red anyway from the firebolt. And I think I will pick up a blue because there might be a chance that we don't have blue after re-rolling this, and we will still need blue for the Song of Wind. So that's our 5th turn. We re-roll the die, stays blue, that might be fortunate. And we do draw 4 of the 5 cards that are still in our deck, which is a stamina, a mana draw, and a fireball, which should mean that this is a rage. Let's see if the dummy does actually announce the end of round after his next turn or not. But there's the green, so blue and red, which is 1 more card, which is white. So there was a chance, but it wasn't a good one, which does mean we have 2 more turns, and the dragon has also this turn and 1 more. In his 5th, the dragon will destroy the monastery. Since the lair was not revealed, which we could not do because in the resting turn we can't use the move effect of the scouts. This brings us to our 6th turn, and in this turn we do want to move into the city without getting wounded by the dragon, which means paying a white to get move 2 and have the move cost of plains, desert and wasteland reduced by 2. And the blue from the source allows us to travel through lakes for a cost of 0, which does mean we can move around here, even the plains will be 0, and then finally move into the city, so we can hire. And since the final move needs the 2 move points, we will activate the scouts to reveal the lair. So you're making room for the lair and getting rid of the rows, because I do not think I want to use random tile orientation for the lair, because it should be away from us and it's clear in the rules where the lair should be, and I don't want to rotate the lair towards us. Which does mean there is a tomb, a white crystal mine and a tower, and the dragon is sitting here in its lair. The unfortunate part is now that to hire the gunners we would need improvisation, which is 5 influence, and then we have 6, 7, 8. But due to the -1, we would need 9. So we do need the last card, which does mean we just have to end the turn and hire them in our last turn, which is really sad. If you would have any other influence card, we could even use the last turn to kill a dragon or something else, but all these cards will be squandered, unfortunately. Actually, we do have a shield, so we are actually sitting at 0. I think I mentioned it in planning at some point, but forgot again. But does that matter? Because if we play all the cards, we will get a rage only for the last turn. We will have gunners, but they don't do anything by themselves. And I just realized I also miscalculated that the dragon will not destroy anything else, because this is our 6th turn, but the dummy will, after us, announce the end of round in his 6th turn, which does mean the dragon does not destroy anything in his 6th turn again, and we will have a 7th because we are this round before the dummy. So he's not destroying anything at all, which might have been a mistake then to not move first, so the dragon leaves us the monastery. But let's not dwell on that, and I don't think there's much to do with this day, so let's just use the shamanistic ritual now. That's 5 influence. The shield cancels the reputation, 6, 7, 8, so we can pick up the gunners. This is flipped, but it's the end of round then soon anyway. All these cards are played. This is re-rolled, stays blue again. We do draw the rage, dummy announce end of round. Dragon does not have another turn, and we have a turn with just the rage and the gunners. That would be an attack of 9, even 10, 11 if we power it, but we would need 14. And we are not leaving the city, so I think that's it for the 2nd day. This went a little bit less smooth than I would have anticipated. And we do still have 2 wounds in the deck, unfortunately, because we could not heal them. But we do have the Firestorm for the final attack. We do have a ranged fire attack of 3 with the Firebolt. We do have the Underground Travel to get into position, a Gem Pouch to get us more mana. The Crushing Bolt is physical range attack. With concentration we can increase either to 5, that's nice. We have the Blood Ritual for black mana, but we only need 1 because we have only 1 spell. And that's pretty much it, but we do have the Gunners, and we will see what units we get, and we could then get more units with influence. But we don't have our 4th slot yet, and we didn't level yet again, so we did not pick up into the heat yet. Let's ready the scouts and the golems. The day tactics are eliminated. It did not actually play a role now that the dummy went after us. He announced the end of round soon enough that the dragon doesn't destroy anything, and we did not use our last turn, so it didn't matter. The dummy's picking up a white crystal and a white card. That's a bit bad. So Swift Bolt. I am getting rid of Restoration and Counterattack, because I'm picking up Into the Heat anyway, and I don't want Restoration, but I won't get a spell anyway. Let's get rid of the advanced actions from the monasteries. The advanced action offer refreshes with Magic Talent and Mana Storm. Magic Talent is interesting. Mana Storm not that much. Flame Wall could be good. It's a lot of attack or block. The heads all count as individual enemies, unless they are defeated already in the range attack phase. And we did not pick up the Autumn Mages, of course. And without getting called to glory, we could not pick them up. Maybe getting the spell and going to a dungeon would also have been an idea. But I do like that we explored everything now, so we are really set up for the last round. If we would have gone to the tower and then to the dungeon, we might have been totally out of position. The 2 silver units, which might be easier to recruit if they have a range attack, are Red Cape Monks, not a range attack, and another Peasants, also not a range attack. And the much more important elite units are another Gunners, that's so nice, and Fire Mages, which do have a range attack. It's not as large as the Gunners, but again it's free and they give us a lot of mana. But I think the Gunners are just insanely good pull. The source of the second night starts with 2 blue, a red and a white. Let's shuffle the dummy deck and our deck, and then we are good to go for the final round. So it should be enough for our deck. Let's draw the starting hand. There's a Crushing Bolt, a Tranquility, that would be nice if you draw it together with Wounds, a Rage, a Wound, okay, that's not bad, a Blood Ritual, that might be a bit early, and a Fireball, that might be a bit early, because we need that for the dragon. Let's move that over here. And the available tactics, of course, are from Dusklong Night, Mana Search and Sparring Power, and I'm leaning towards Sparring Power, but let's discuss this. So we do decide to go with Sparring Power again, because we do want to have a glorious attack on the dragon with a lot of cards in our hand. And the other tactics are just us going early or a long night or grooming the source, and this is not that important, so we are picking this up, which means the dummy will just go from the dusk, because it doesn't matter at that point. So Tova goes before Krang, and we did realize that we screwed up in the last round, since the White City actually is friendly to us and we have a shield, so we do have a hand limit increase of 1. That would have been nice for the last round. So we did draw another card, which is the Firebolt. As for what to do with the first turn, it's pretty clear with the hand, since we cannot repair it and have to live with what we have, that we do need to kill the dragon, because we do need this Into the Heat. Fix our reputation a bit, it's just 1 point, but we do want these other Gunners. But since the Gunners themselves will kill a head each with fire damage and all the other heads are cold fire resistant, we can just play our fire cards here. So the Firebolt we don't need, we are playing this for a crystal. Let's do that. Let's make a discard pile here. We are then using the Blood Ritual, which is also a bit sad because it's a mana card that we would need in an assault, but we don't have any spells actually. Just 1 and we already cast it, so it really doesn't matter. So we use the red die from the source to cast Blood Ritual, getting a wound. And we mark the 3 arbitrary mana we get with gold, although it's technically not correct. So this is the wound. We power then a Rage, the regular Fireball, and a Crushing Bolt for a total attack of 3, 5, 4, and a Night Sharpshooting for 2. So that's 3, 8, 12, 14, which kills the dragon, since we do not block it. But the dragon will attack us, of course, and we have an armor of 3. It's an cold attack of 4, so we are getting another 2 wounds. So let's clean all this up. Those are cards that we do not have for the final assault, of course. So this leaves us with a Tranquility, a wound that we already had in hand, and 3 new wounds. So we are flipping the Shamanistic Ritual for a green, cast a Tranquility to heal 2 of the wounds. So 2 are thrown away. Tranquility is also played. And our hand now consists just of 2 cards. Of course, we would have to put a card under Sparring Power at the beginning of the turn. Let's not forget that. And I also forget Torvak, of course, who is going before us. But let's finish our turn first. Let's reroll. Torvak doesn't care for this. So there's a green mana. That might be nice. And we do get 7 fame, which brings us to 37. And due to the Blizz rules, it's actually 38. And we do get 2 reputation. Let's quickly do Torvak before we draw up. So in his first turn, actually before us, he would have played red, white, and white, which is another 2 cards, which is green and green. So that's really not the best. No blue cards. To green already out, so we really need to pick up the pace, I think, which is good that we planned for something that actually makes us draw, even though we are taking so many wounds. So this is dead, and the end of our first turn then makes us draw up to 7 again because of the city. That's 5 cards. Determination, Underground Travel, Mana Draw, Stamina, and a March. So all in all, not that interesting. The Underground Travel, of course, is welcome. And after the third turn, when the dragon attacks, some of these cards might actually be useful to not get more wounds. But it's our first turn then, and now it's the dragon's first, in which he destroys a site, and it's the closest to the lair now, so it could be the Mage Tower, the Tomb, or the Mine. And I think I want to go with the Mage Tower. I don't see us traveling there to pick up another spell. They're all not that interesting for us. Tremor doesn't work, Flame Wall is another fire source, and Demolish does not work. So this would have been Illusionists, and the tower is gone, and we mark the space with Rubble. Alright, so that's the second turn then for Tovak, and he plays red, white, and white again, so another 2 cards. Blue and another blue, so that's a little bit better, but still he played 5 cards, so already at 10, so he has 9 left in the deck. And this brings us to our second turn. And before we plan, we should really not forget to put a card under Sparring Power. We will not pop that yet. So at this point we just make a preparation turn. We do have the 2 wounds in hand. We do have the Underground Travel, which doesn't work through lakes, so it's really awkward, and we do not want to go anywhere else, because we really do not have resources to spare. We need to prepare for the final fight, and even burning stuff like this down would take some range attack. Units won't help even, so we are just banking on Song of Wind to cross the lake for free. It costs a lot of mana, which is also the reason why we toss these 2, because we have their counterparts still in the deck. One is Savage Harvesting, of course, and we really need to seed more cards. So we make a resting turn where we cannot turn this back, but we are getting rid of the wounds and 3 other cards. And Determination we keep for the third turn to defend against the dragon. So we are drawing up 5 more cards. Let's see what we get. There's the Savage Harvesting, the Endless Gem Pouch, a Wound, an Improvisation, that's good, it's Influence, and a Concentration that we probably want for the final fight. Alright, so in the second turn the dragon will not do anything, which brings us to the third of the dummy. Let's see if he slows down a little bit at least. So there's white, there's green unfortunately, and another green. Okay, so I think we are almost out of greens. No, not really. But it is a short turn, I appreciate it a lot. Which brings us to our third turn, where we will be attacked afterwards, so we need to plan for that. Let's put a card on the Sparring Power, to not forget. So this will be a really slow turn, but we don't see us resting, because it will cost us a card. So we really have to play something and just hold on to the wound. And we are just playing the pouch now. So we are rolling 1 by 1. First is blue. That might not actually be that bad, because we need blue for the Song of Wind and maybe a stamina. And the other one is red, unfortunately. And just to point it out, in the new rules, there is actually a variant that says alternatives when gaining a random mana crystal. And it's meant to be applied in exactly the situation when you roll a basic color and you already have 3, or if you roll gold and you have already 3 of each color, or if you're rolling black and you would normally just get a fame. And the suggested variant is to reroll until you roll a color that is allowed, gain a random faction token, that would be huge, I think, which is also a fame, but of course it can be much better. And we would have to decide before the game which faction this may be from. And if you're playing with quests, you reveal a quest card and place it in your player area. You may perform steps on a quest card at any time. You may announce that other players may perform steps on a quest card. You may not reverse this decision. Keep the quest card until it's completed. So I'm not sure I want to use any of those because we didn't agree on that beforehand. I just thought of it because we just rolled red, which does mean we get a red token, not a crystal. I'm not sure we have a use for this. And I think I should announce what I'm playing with as a variant before the game, so I'm just taking it as a red token, which we can't use, so it's useless. I hope this will not be the deciding factor that we are lacking exactly 1 mana at the end of the game. But that's it for our third turn, so we are drawing a card, which is a Swiftness, and then the dragon will attack us, so he will fly out of his lair again, attack us in the White City. And as already prepared, we will then ignore 2 heads, let's say these lower 2. Then these 2 will attack us, and they are now level 4, which means this is a physical 3 attack, swift and poisonous. But the golems have 3 physical resistance, so we are just ignoring this. And this is a physical attack of 4, that's paralyzing. And we are activating the golems and playing the determination for another block 2, so that's block 4, so we are also safe against that. For this we did not need to fully attend, we did not use our skill or any source die, so that's the third turn of the dragon, and we get to the 4th of the dummy. Fortunately he has still 6 cards, but he could still hit blue. Let's see what happens. Blue, that's really good. But we do hit another blue. So this exhausts his deck, 3 more cards, which does mean we have only 2 turns left instead of 3. So what are we doing in our 4th turn? Since there are still 4 cards here, we will have to put 1 under Sparring Power again, and then make sure we can draw these 3 cards, which should not be a problem. I just realized that we completely forgot to level up, which is bad because we would have Into the Heat in our hand and would have seen other cards later. But of course it's clear that we did pick it up, but I have to look which order the cards came out to see if this all still works out and what card we are lacking. Obviously we will not have Swiftness, I think. Probably that's just it, but let's see in the video. But let's also do the skill choice then. And the skill choice is between Regeneration. Okay, that changes things too, because we could have replaced this card. This might actually be easier to fix than if we pick that up. And the other choice is Curse, which reduces an attack or an armor, and it's restricted to non-fortified enemy if you're using it in the range and siege attack phase. Since we are picking up the last card in a row, we could also pick this skill from Tovak, which might be a good idea because it's actually giving us +4, and we do need a lot of points to actually kill the last head. So we could use this, for example, in our second to last turn to get a red mana, and then in the last turn where we attack the dragon, we will use the red mana to power a rage for 4, attack +4, that's actually already 8. And this sounds like a huge idea, so I do really like this. But we have to see if the regeneration makes it easier to fix the mess that we forgot our level up. So let me look that up. Alright, so I looked it up, and actually both ways of playing would be feasible. The regeneration play would probably have the better choice, to be honest, because it could mean that we just replace wounds with cards and can actually flip this back because we are not doing resting turns or doing anything else. As it is, we rested in turn 2 and played the pouch in turn 3, which, now that I think of it, is actually a special effect, so we could do that while resting. And in this turn 3 we did not do anything else. So you can flip back Shamanistic Ritual anyway. But nevertheless, regeneration would have been nice, but it's more work to compensate. So what we will do is we will not take this, of course, and we will not take regeneration, but instead take Mana Overload. As for Into the Heat, we would have had this in turn 2 already, so we could not have tossed a March. In turn 2 we tossed 5 cards, 2 wounds, Underground Travel, Stamina and March. But a March would not have been in our hand. Which does mean for the pouch turn we would have 2 less cards, so neither the improvisation nor the concentration, but we could still do the pouch play and discard the March. So we are catching up by 1 card, which just means at this point we have not seen the swiftness yet, but instead have the Into the Heat in our hand. And then we are synced up again. But as I just alluded to, in the pouch turn we did not do any other action, so we could have flipped that back, which is quite huge actually. So let's refresh the advanced action offer, which shows us learning, which is a bit too late, I think. Alright, but now we fixed everything, and the dummy is already in his 4th turn, which is the second to last because now he will announce the end of round. So we have our 4th turn and then we need to kill the dragon. The dragon, by the way, has flown back to its lair, and we play our 4th turn without 7 cards because we did play Determination in the turn of the dragon. So in our second to last turn we are pulling a green die from the source, playing Concentration on Improvisation, tossing Savage Harvesting. That's 5 + 2, 7 influence. 1 from the shield is 8, so we can pick up the gunners. And we are replacing the golems, which have served us very well this game. This was really an MVP unit due to its resistance and the overall blocking effects. But this means we have 2 gunners now, which are both ready, and the golems have to go. And this means that we have 3 cards still in hand. We are rerolling this. Comes up black, not the best color actually, but we are drawing the rest of the deck. We have already placed our 4th card under Sparring Power at the beginning, so now we are drawing up to 7 because we are still in the city. And there's the Swiftness, of course, and then there's the Ruthless Coercion, Stamina, and Crystallize, which does mean the Song of Wind has to be here. But it's our 4th turn. The dragon doesn't do anything in his 4th turn. In the 5th, the dummy announced the end of round, so we are getting rid of this. And now we made a mistake again. I'm really not up to speed when it comes to not making mistakes, so I'm apologizing for that. But we would have needed to use this so we can use it in the final turn, of course. And the plan was to use this with Rage so we can actually get 8 attack from the Rage. So we would have needed to use a red card, which is Improvisation, but unfortunately we use the green die from the source. So you would need to power this on its own, which is just 5/6 influence, and then we can use this for the 7th, but we would need to toss another card, and those we have drawn up, of course. So we would need to get rid of Into the Heat or Mana Draw. I don't want to use this, but the funny thing is without Mana Draw we might not even have a red to power the Rage in the first place because we need 2 here and 1 for Into the Heat. Actually we do have it here, but we have almost no mana left. We need a white for Swiftness, a white for the Song of Wind, but we do have 1 in the source, and then blue. I think it will turn out well, so let's try to get rid of the Mana Draw as well. So that's 7 again. We use this mana then here, so this is still green, which probably doesn't do much for us, but it's not black. But this was the whole point of taking the skill, and I completely missed it in my second to last turn. So mana token red, we have to mark it anyway, so let's put that here. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8. That's really inconvenient, but I really want to make this play. So this goes into the center, which just means that we are increasing a skill by 4 if we are paying with red, which means we have 1 card less, but now it's fixed. We can now activate that with our Rage. So we are in our final 5th turn. It's very a short round, and now we are popping Sparring Power. So this goes under here, and we will reveal these cards, and there should be a Rage in there, there should be a Song of Wind in there. These are the cards that we are banking on to reach the dragon at all, and there should also be, no, the Stamina we already drawn, okay. But there are certain cards that we will see because we have exhausted our deck and we haven't seen them yet, so let's see. There's a Promise, yeah that's true, we haven't seen it yet. Song of Wind, nice. Rage, nice. And a second Swiftness, that's also true, yeah, we didn't have that yet. Alright, so this is the final moment. We now have to kill the dragon, but it's all open information now. let's see if we can do it. So we do think we can do it, which is really nice, but it really comes down to the last mana point. But let's see. We are taking a white source die for Song of Wind and using a blue crystal to also pay for traveling lakes. This means plains, desert and wastelands are now reduced by 2, which means the dragon can be assaulted for 2, he's in wasteland, and the lakes are actually 0. So the movement costs we need to assault the dragon are 5 because we have hills in between as well. So there are 2 movement points from Song of Wind itself, and then we can use a stamina without paying a crystal. And now that I'm thinking of it, we could even use any other card, but let's just stick with the swiftness. So that's 6 movement points, that's enough to assault a dragon. So let's get rid of those. Krang glides over the lake. 2. Actually, it's more efficient to just use this wasteland. This is counterintuitive, but it's reduced to 2 as well. Which actually does mean that the swiftness is still available. That's really nice. So we have 2 from Song of Wind to glide into this wasteland and then assault the dragon. So let's move the dragon a little bit here. We are standing here, and now it's the final confrontation. We then, of course, use Into the Heat with a red crystal. So now all of our units have their attack increased by 3, but they cannot be assigned damage. And at that point, I think I need to shuffle this around. This is really a messy game. My apologies. I think I might actually be screwed. That's a bit sad. But let's continue with the original plan. So we are now activating the gunners for 9 ranged fire attack, and these gunners for 9 ranged fire attack. Which does mean that this head here, which at level 9 has 9 armor and is just cold resistant, will be dead by 1 gunner. And also this head, which at level 9 will be just physical resistant and has 9 armor, is also dead by another gunner. So these 2 gunners kill these 2 heads. Let's put them under the control head. We then activate the scouts for range attack of 4 due to Into the Heat. We do have night sharpshooting for 6. And with a white crystal, we have a swiftness that brings it up to 9. So at that point, we have 9 physical range attack, which makes us kill this dragon, which at level 9 has armor of 9 and is cold fire resistant, but it was a physical range attack. Which leaves the control head, of course, and we can't kill the other head at range. So this head at level 9 has also 9 armor and is cold fire resistant, and it has an attack of 8 physical, which is swift, but we do not intend to block it anyway. Our plan was to retaliate with a rage, using Shamanistic Ritual for another red, because we have used 3 red crystals already, so those are all used. Which triggers then Mana Overload, so the next card we play, which gives attack, block of any kind, or influence, is improved by 4, so the rage will do 8 damage. And another sideways card like Swiftness will then kill the dragon with an armor of 9. So that would kill this head, unless we are being knocked out. And I think that's the elephant in the room now, because we will get 8 damage here. We can't assign to units. This is due to our own doing, since we played Into the Heat. And that's exactly what kills us, I think. Because we have 3 armor, that's 3 wounds. And a control head, there's a psychic attack of 9, there's also 3 wounds. So we are taking 6, which is our unmodified hand limit. And we would be knocked out and lose the rest of our cards. But the point where this becomes really sad is that we have now seen all of our influence cards, and not earlier. We would have played them earlier. But psychic attack can actually be blocked by influence. And we do have a promise, a ruthless coercion, that together, if we could power them, would be more than enough influence. But the only crystals we have left are blue and green, because we misrolled the pouch and did not get a second crystal. We would need red, of course, to get these 6, because if we are just powering this, that would be 4, that's 6, 7, and then we are lacking cards. And the wound, of course, we cannot use for anything. So to block this, we would need a red mana here, which we can do with Crystallize and the blue crystal, producing a red token. So that would be 6 influence, and this gives us 8, which is 1 shy of blocking this, and we do not have another card left, because we had to toss the mana draw in the last turn to make it work with hiring. If we had a white crystal, it would also be enough, because then we are actually at 10. So this would let us block this, then we just take 3 wounds and then we can kill it. So that's the idea here, but currently we are shy 1 influence. So just to make that clear, Crystallize with blue gives us a red, so another red token. It's marked with gold because it's an extra token that I do not want to confuse with the crystals I had to begin with. And that would be 8, but it's again 1 shy. And there's no partial blocking, even with psychic attacks. So the game is really balanced on Razor's Edge currently. But there was nothing to optimize here. We need the Song of Wind to reach the dragon, and we need 4 movement. This provides us only 2, so we do need another card, and stamina is as good as any. We could have used the swiftness. And of course we do need Into the Heat to make it work with the range attack. It's 9 range attack that we are getting. It's a full head. And the swiftness we need with the scouts and the night sharpshooting to kill one of the heads. So that's a loss, unfortunately. We can kill 3 heads and then we are knocked out. We can see what happens if we roll with the variant rule for the pouch and see if we can get white or gold, because that would allow us to then power the promise and then block the head, take 3 wounds and be done with it. But it's just out of curiosity. And actually the die comes up gold, so that would have worked out. But again, I really misplayed a lot of stuff in this game. I'm happy that I could fix everything so that it's still a legal game in my book. There was a lot of room for optimization, and as you can see, defeating the dragon at level 9 is already non-trivial. I was lucky that I got both gunners with Into the Heat, so that's 2 heads dead just from 3 cards, so 2 units and 1 card and 2 mana. And the scouts turned out to be quite good because they are range attack 4 physical and the other 2 heads needed physical or cold. I also picked up Night Sharpshooting that allowed me to kill the 3rd head. Rage killed the 4th if I'm not knocked out, and the mana overload might be debatable. I could have taken Regeneration, so see the influence cards earlier, so I can high the gunners without tossing Concentration and Mana Draw. Concentration would already bring it up to 6 and I had a spare Swiftness. So if I can get more mana and with Mana Draw maybe I could power in another Swiftness, then a Concentrated Rage with a Swiftness would also be 9 damage. But it's hard to tell if this would have worked out, and since I screwed up I had to fix this in the easiest way possible, and this was just to pick up this, which is a good idea by itself, but it does mean I need the 4th red. And this binds this skill here because I cannot get 4 red crystals, and without a Mana Draw I'm kind of screwed. Of course I can use the crystallize as well to recolor the crystal here for this, then this is open, but it doesn't matter because I would then need this to power Drusus Coercion, and I'm still at 8 only. Yeah, so I think it's a very close game. Comes down to 1 influence point or 1 mana, 1 crystal. I had a really unlucky row of the pouch, although I did roll blue and I ended up needing this, but my card management was not good. Using concentration and mana draw just too high was really bad. And not having a hand limit of 7 in the 3rd round meant I had to work around that. There were a lot of situations where I was considering what's left in the deck, what I can draw, and I think with a hand limit of 7, this would have been much easier. So let's count it as a loss. I'm not doing score then, but I found this experience quite interesting, I have to say. I do like the scenario. As you can see, there's a lot of destroyed sites, both because the dragon attacks in solo in the 1st and the 5th turn. So that's twice per round if the dummy then announced the end of round, which happened a lot, so I was lucky in this sense. And he did not actually destroy a 2nd site in the 5th round because we are still in my 5th turn. But it is a total of 7 sites, so that's 4, 3. So the other 3 are then sites that I probably destroyed just by taking shelter there. Although I took shelter twice in the White City. So it doesn't fully add up, so I'm off by 1 for some reason. Maybe the dragon did destroy 2 in a round, I can't really remember. But the city is really an MVP here. Revealing the city in this scenario is really beneficial because it can give you shelter once you reach it. It might be in the 3rd round. So you can use it in the 3rd and the 4th to take shelter and it's not being destroyed. It gives you 1 influence point and you can actually hire good units there. So in contrast to the horseman scenario, I think the city here is much more important. And since the tiles are not ordered, on setup you can reveal the city order layer as your first tile. But I think it's not too hard to actually reveal them all, because as you can see, the map is actually not that large. We have only 5 countryside tiles and 3 core, which makes the map much smaller, so it's easier to reach core early, and you don't have to move that far. I think in this scenario it's much more important to plan out your rounds, that you can take shelter in the 3rd, and picking up the golems, of course, for me was really important. With shelter, you can ignore 1 or 2 heads, and the golem by itself can always take care of 1 head, because no matter what the level was, there was always a head that had a physical attack of 3, maybe swift, maybe poisonous, but it doesn't matter. And in the rounds where the attacks are still small, just activating the golems for a block of 2 is usually also enough to get rid of another head. So that turned out really well, but I like this overall scenario due to the need to plan for this, to plan what sites are being destroyed. For example, here this was really not optimal, because I ended up just getting 1 artifact from a monastery and I miscalculated here and I had to take shelter instead of taking this. So I went to the oasis instead of raising the monastery. And here the monastery as well was destroyed because I did not reveal the tile, which would have given me more time to destroy this. So I think my snowballing got stuck at some point and I did not get more artifacts. It was also quite bad that I had to play the pouch instead of keeping it for the final encounter, and I think with the regeneration play that might have been much easier. So in the end, these 4 points I probably would have gotten just from the mana from the pouch, because it is an extra red, it is an extra white, so I could have powered a lot more cards. And as already mentioned several times, the dragon ends up having exactly the amount of health that an avatar would have at level 12, so usually 48. So as you can see, both the necromancer and the high priestess have an armor of 4, times 12, which is the same for the dragon. So the dragon is really the same as the avatars when it comes to armor. The problem is that of course you can snipe the avatars to not have them attack, and you can do the same with the dragon, and you are usually not fighting them alone. So at level 12 you would have 7 tokens here, and you would have also 7 tokens with this avatar. And this is completely missing in this scenario. I think this is also the reason why people find it too easy. Although there seems to be some confusion on the basic settings, and of course if you play it on level 4, a head has just 4 health, which does mean a concentrate swiftness will just kill 1 head. And if you have both swiftness and concentration, you already kill 2 heads, so just with the starting deck, which is of course too easy, but I think that's true for all the scenarios, no matter if it's a City Assault or Volca or the avatars. If you play it on the regular settings, it's far too easy. So please just increase the level to make it more challenging for you. But there still stands the difference that usually when it comes to Volca, when it comes to the avatars, you have to deal with a lot of tokens, and with cities, of course, you have to deal with fortification. And the dragon has none of that. And I think the balancing factor is supposed to be that you are hampered in your snowballing. It's a Bliss rule scenario with just 4 rounds. So you will not be as powerful as you would be without the dragon constantly destroying things, taking opportunities away from you, and potentially giving you wounds. I did not take any, I think, because I had the golems. But I'm not sure this is true if you have a different unit offer and you have to deal with 2 heads yourself. If you're not taking wounds, then it takes you a lot of resources. Just spending a unit every round is a lot less resources than needing to block or heal. But I think the overall scenario emphasizes healing a lot more. And this is also true for what I said here. I could have gone to the monastery and just take the wounds. I ignored 1 head only. So if I'm not going there, it's just 1 head that I have to deal with in comparison. And if I would have any good source of healing, it might just be better to just take that, heal the wounds, and pick up an artifact instead. But I did not pick up any healing. I'm not sure if there were spells for this. Yeah, the downmost spell in the pile is actually Restoration, so we could have picked that up, and it might be a strategy, just go for more healing. I think that's the overall idea with this expansion, that the designer tried to emphasize block and healing much more. This is also why people don't like the Sigureth in the pyramid, and maybe they don't like this scenario as well then, because they are set in their ways. But I do like this overall approach, that for Sigureth's pyramids and the dragon, picking up healing and block probably pays off a lot. But these are not the flashy things, and they don't make you too powerful. They prevent snowballing nevertheless. But I'm not the one to complain. I like the overall idea. And having a Bliss scenario after all, so the Horseman was also 4 round, but not Blitz. With a smaller map, with strategic planning, where you are in turn 3 and what side to sacrifice, I think that's an interesting value proposition that I will definitely play again. What I can say is that this scenario does not work well with quests. I think I would not try that, because you have to plan already enough and you're dashing from side to side, everything gets destroyed, and I think the quest will just be a hindrance, an annoyance, and hard to plan for. And I'm also thinking that the active dummy is also not good for this scenario, for the same reason pretty much, that the dummy will also take stuff away from you. And I don't see the point, I think. You are playing against the dragon here already, so you have an adversary. And this is also a limiting factor for the number of turns you want to play. Although the dummy came in clutch to announce end of round to prevent additional sites being destroyed after the 5th turn. But I think you have an adversary already that's taking stuff away from you, so this is also not a good idea. Which is interesting, because against the Horseman is a completely different story. I think both could work well. Quest could be a good addition there, and the active dummy could also be a good addition there. I did not do that to experience the scenario like in its original raw form. But it's really interesting how these scenarios greatly differ. Alright, so I don't think this will be a post-mortem, at least not in the title. Of course I will add subtitles with the mistakes I made, with the non-optimal plays I did, so partly it will be a post-mortem. But after all, we did lose by 1 point, and I want to honor that. If you screw up, then that's that. Yeah, we could have taken the variant rule, but we have to fix that before we start play, I think. And rerolling if you already have the gem might be a good choice. Getting a faction token might be too strong, to be honest. Of course, it depends on the token you get. And with the quests, I'm not sure I like that too much, but we didn't play with quests anyway. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this insight into Against the Dragon, which is the last scenario before the full 6-round scenario where you play against the Horsemen and the Dragon, which is definitely what I want to try out next. So see you in the next game.